Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Pixar! Robots are bastards! Everyone! Robots are bastards!
It's the last.
It's the final one!
It's the final
I'm genuinely sad, Dave.
Yeah,
Genuinely sad.
I watched
I'm
that
devastated.
Randy Newman theme with tears in my eyes.
I really relished it this time.
Yeah, I was like living under the gun. It's so true. So true, Randy.
You had no idea how true those words were when he sang them at the beginning of the season with such hope.
That's true.
That we're gonna be doing this for you.
I really felt like that's the beauty of Cop Rock. They really thought they had something like that was going to be huge. And to the point that we'll talk about how this ends. It even ends in a victory lap, which is like, wow. Listen, I enjoy Cop Rock.
Listen, I think they deserve a victory lap because
it's just very funny.
This remains one of the most fascinating, inexplicable, massive swings in the history of television.
They earned it. It's just amazing. It's just so incredible. Like it's they basically it's like I don't know, juggling turds in front of a completely silent audience, and then when it's all over, being like, I think they want to see that again, and then doing
like a really drawn out like bowing like at the end of a.
It's the dirty limerick guy from I Think You Should Leave. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, where he can't remember any of them.
Yeah, and then he's like, or am I wrong? Do you guys actually really like this? It's a
little like that, but
it's a little. I love Cop Rock.
I think it's a little tongue in cheek, but also, they're proud of this weird, huge risk they took. This is a huge gamble.
They should be proud. You're right.
They should, yeah.
Everybody, by the way, this is All Bards Are Bastards.
All Bards Are Bastards.
Our Cop Rock podcast produced by Matt Smith. The Matt Smith. Let's just go with that. Thank you, Matt Smith.
Thank you, Matt
so
Smith.
much. Our patron producer who showed us the light, that is Cop Rock.
Made us sit down and watch Cop Rock, possibly as a bit. But little could anyone have known that Dave and I would come out the other side of this experience and be Cop Rock fans.
Yeah, I'm pro Cop Rock. I love this show.
I love this show. Yeah, I would wear a Cop Rock shirt unironically.
Yeah, it's tough because it's hard to wear anything like pro cop seeming. That's
extremely
on a
true.
shirt.
So I actually wouldn't wear this shirt, but I would own.
But it's
the
like,
shirt.
would it be ironic? Like it would be hard. Like you would have to like tell people. I don't know.
I'd have to put like a little name tag on it that had, explicitly written on it. I'm wearing this ironically. Like I'm a fan of the show Cop Rock.
Well, it's hard, because I'm not wearing it ironically.
Right.
So
right.
Like, you could have an All Cops Are Bastards like hat while wearing a Cop Rock shirt, maybe.
Right. You wear a hat that says All Cops Are Bastards, and then your shirt says ... But I am a fan of the show Cop Rock.
Yeah.
And
there
I
we
think
go.
that would accomplish our mission.
Yeah. So this is we're on one episode. That's it.
Yep.
That's all that was left.
All we got left.
Episode 11, Bang the Pot Slowly. If you recall, LaRusso was found not guilty.
He was acquitted.
In the previous episode.
It's been a little while. I needed a bit of a refresher, but
yeah. And then Vicky and Ralph having their fucking bummer goddamn relationship fall apart. Their marriage.
I want to. This episode, I want to take some time for Ralph because. What a journey that character went on from the first episode we saw him in to where he's arrived at the end of the series.
This is a real like Elf situation in that it doesn't end in a place that you feel good about for the most part. Like they really needed more. Like I was like, my first note was like, I need you guys to wrap everything up because I'm gonna be so sad if you don't. And then they don't.
They can't.
Quite.
They couldn't.
They can't. Yeah, I know. They should have blown up the station.
Yeah, just
like
blow up Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Godzilla comes out of the ocean and just rips the state free from the rest of the continental United States.
Yeah. So the episode begins with the fact that there's a rapist on the loose, and I was like, oh no, I don't know about this, Cop Rock. I don't know if you can handle this subject, but let's keep going. And all the lady cops are doing a sting to catch the rapist.
Yeah.
And they sing their first song
about
how excited they are to beat up this rapist.
Yeah. A real, like, bluesy rock song.
Yeah. And they mean well, but of course, you know, most sexual assaults aren't serial rapists. Not to say there aren't any, but like, it's just, this is very much like feeding into the narrative, right? Yeah. Of like rapists are people you don't know who go around dark alleyways, and cops are the only ones who can solve it. It's like, honestly, there's probably a lot of rapists in that police station.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Statistically.
Statistically, the problem is probably wearing a uniform.
And here's the first scene sort of demonstrates kind of why Cop Rock failed, I think, and which is the tonal whiplash. Because there's a couple of moments in the show where this happens, but because, like we keep saying, if for some insane reason this is the first episode you're listening to, this show is just very much a gritty cop drama by Steven Bochco where they deal with real shit, man, and real fucking wild. A lady sells her baby in the first episode, and then they do a weird song with a man in a blue blazer who's like, how much for your baby? Yeah. Like, this show is out of its mind. So they do this painful interrogation. Well, not interrogation. They're taking this victim's statement.
Questioning.
They're taking her statement about how she was assaulted. And it's brutal. It's a brutal scene. And they go right from that to this fucking musical number where they're singing this kind of badass rock song about how, like, he's not going to know what, like, about how they're lying in wait to trap him and beat his ass. And it's just like, it's embarrassing.
The problem, here's the problem, is that I think that was the idea, right?
Of course.
The problem is they didn't do enough of a whiplash. I'm sure I've mentioned the miniseries The Singing Detective while talking about Cop Rock, because there's a perfect example that they should have taken from, because this was a show, I believe that was before Cop Rock. I think it was more like the 80s as The Singing Detective, where there's a part where he's in the hospital, he has a skin condition that's causing him great pain, and he's hallucinating. And I think it's in the first episode, and he tells these doctors, like, he doesn't know how much longer he can deal with this. Like, he's at his wit's end. He wants to die, and he's crying, and then they start singing. And the idea is it's an hallucination, right? Like, he's interrupted by his own hallucination, and it's so crass and, like, inappropriate that that's the point.
Right.
That's the entire point. And you can feel that the show knows it's the point. So, like, they kind of needed to actually embrace the whiplash more. Like, and I'm trying to think of ways they could have done it.
They wanted to be serious, though. Like, it wasn't...
Right.
So I don't... Without a narrative device like the character who we're seeing from their point of view is hallucinating, there's no real way to explain this outside of just doing it as a straightforward musical.
The only way they could do it is, like, to show... like the woman who gives the report being, like, outraged at what they're doing.
I think the way to do it is to do a different song.
Or do a different song.
It's the way to do it.
Again, you have to lean into the fact how ghoulish this is. Because I think the idea is, we talked about this, is that cop shows are like taking a real thing.
They're exploitative by definition.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you could do that by really showing it. Mm-hmm. There's a song later that I want to talk about that also is trying to do this. It's the second to last song. Yeah. And, like, I get, again, what they're trying to do there, and I think they do it a lot better.
It's a lot better there. It's just, what I wanted to say is, because obviously there's musicals of every, like, a musical is, like, one type of genre. There are different genres of musicals. And there are plenty of musicals, obviously, that deal with hard, serious, real shit. So it's like, this is not an impossible task to accomplish. It's just, I think it wasn't the format that was the problem here. I just think they made some not great choices, like that one, that sort of undercut. Like, the show is kind of a little bit confusing because it is such a serious, straightforward drama, but the musical stuff is handled very jokily a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like with the guy in the blue blazer singing about selling babies. It's like, oh, all right, like Child Catcher is going to come out and sing a song? Like, it's a little...
The people they choose to sing songs it feels like a roll of the dice. Like, they've made some wild fucking choices of who gets to sing. Mm-hmm. It makes sense because they probably want guest singers, and when you watch a police procedural, who's the guest? They're often the criminals, the right? Yeah, so like, that is why they do it, I guess.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, and it's not that they couldn't have that guy sing a song. It's just not the song that he sings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where I think the failing was. It's not the format. Sure. It was some of the song decisions just were too much of a. It couldn't decide what show it was, so it is a little confusing to watch at some points.
Yeah, I would argue Randy Newman was a poor choice.
Poor choice.
He writes a lot of the songs, and it's very funny because it's just not a Randy Newman type of production. And yet I guess it is.
I mean, not to say that, I don't know.
He's not the worst choice. It's just that,
odd choice. It was not who I would have picked. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get the main theme, speaking of, and now we get Ralph and Vicky working. Ralph is leaving Vicky, and she is just so into him. He tried to murder-suicide them.
He did try
and
to.
She's like, can't we work it out? And it's like, he tried to kill you. Let him go.
Yeah. They never really linger on that too much. They I don't think anybody points that out at any point, that he tried a casual MS of her and her partner.
Yeah, real cash MS.
He's kicking her out. He's divorcing her, but she is the one that is packing up and leaving.
Oh, okay. Wow. He has so much sway in this relationship. And the whole idea was like, he's
well, I said I wanted to talk about him. And so I think this is actually, because obviously they plant the seed in the very first episode. The first song he sings
is about how I don't deserve this woman.
What does she see in me? I'm this old, almost used up guy, and she's young and full of life. What does she waste her time with me? And so, like, we first meet this guy. He's like the sweet older guy. He's the medical examiner, so he's like he seems very trustworthy. Like, he seems to be like this stand-up guy who's just kind of sad and down on himself in that first episode. And I remember being like, "Oh, Ralph, he's like my favorite guy. He seems like a stand-up guy." And oh man, don't feel bad about that. It's like if I understand the insecurity, but like if she married you, so just be content with that. And he ends up driving himself insane with that thought over the course of the season.
It's a really good idea. He becomes a real Neelix from DS9, which Neelix from DS9 also has a similar thing. He has a few things, but one is he's so jealous that he becomes repellent. And so that's kind of what happens with Ralph, right? Is he becomes so insecure that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where he sabotages himself. And he says to her, and it's not relatable, it's understandable in this scene. He says, "I don't want to be that pathetic guy at the party asking if everyone if they've seen his wife." Yeah. And because what he's talking about is he's like, "Yes, you didn't cheat on me this time, but you will, or I will go crazy thinking that." And again, it's not quite right, but you understand how his insecurity fucking took him over.
How he's convinced himself of this, and there's just nothing she can say. Like, he at one point he's like, "Well, you shouldn't really have to go." He comes, he's like, "Well, can I help you?" And she's like, "No, I got it." Like, "Well, you shouldn't really have to go. I can move out." She's like, "Well, I couldn't live in this house without you. It's your house." And then he's like, "Well, what do you want me to say?" And she says, "Say anything. Say this is crazy. Say we'll figure this out. Like, say we'll work through this. Like, say any. Like, she's giving him every she obviously very clearly does not want this marriage to end, and he doesn't want to either, because he's just like, well, maybe I would say I can take this now, but not later. But he has convinced himself so much that his argument is, yeah, I have to break up with you now because I'm convinced you're gonna cheat on me in the future. And it's just such a it's such a, you're so upset at him because it's just such this like you said, self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's so foolish. And it's like he started out as such a sympathetic character, and it's like, man, you really spiraled.
Yeah, if they had more time, I bet this would have gotten back together eventually, or they would have figured out something. I mean, or he just would have become the Joker. There's no telling, but it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Again, I've seen it in other things before too, which is that basic idea. Like, this really feels like one of the writers telling on himself. I don't know. I'm getting a little of that, which is like this old guy dating this way younger woman who's just like, he's so insecure about it. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting arc, and it's like the most compelling one of this series because it's just watching a person destroy themselves, which is
I mean, obviously, like, Andy, who is Vicky's partner, is a bit of a dirtbag. Like, he keeps hitting on her, and like, she's like, yes, I am attracted to you, but this is not going to happen because I'm married, and he just won't give it up. So it's like, he's not imagining this attraction.
Right, I couldn't tell if the show wanted her to get together with Andy. They wanted a will they won't they love triangle that they could like stretch out, I guess.
I think they just wanted to have it where it's like she isn't really doing anything, but also like Andy is really problematic. Like, he's coming on way too strong. And then it just sort of is left to fester and implodes their marriage.
It's hard to tell if they knew Andy was a pest because, again, 90s TV.
1990,
there were characters, there were characters like this that we were supposed to be rooting for.
Yeah.
So it's like, he is a pest. I can't tell if the show knows he's a pest.
I hope so, because there's nothing likable about him.
No,
like, at no point does he do anything likable.
No, but poor Vicky.
Yeah.
It really comes down to Vicky is just surrounded by maniacs.
Right. Two asshole dudes that just like won't believe her when she tells them something. They just refuse to believe what she says.
So that's ultimately never resolved. This is like the last we get of it. This song she sings called "How Do You Say Goodbye," which is it's a oneer. It's through a mirror. It's an interesting. There's a few oneers in this episode that I hadn't noticed before. Because then there's the ad shoot with the mayor. The mayor is running for senator, right?
Yes. Yeah. She's.
And they do a good thing where she's shooting an ad with a bunch of olds, and the olds are very funny. They're complaining about like their union breaks and stuff like that, which is it's a
pretty sweet scene in that.
Yeah, very ahead of its time.
Yeah, I love that it's like it starts where it looks like she actually is in like a retirement home speaking to somebody, and then it pans out and you see it's a commercial shoot, and like all of the old people there are just they're just gruff working actors.
It's great. That's clearly based off like experience. The people making this, which is like, I've worked with like older actors before where they're like, I can do grandma or I can play the devil. Like,
sure,
I'm an actor. That's the whole point of me.
That's the job. But I mean, of course, the whole point is to show you how fake all of this is.
Yes, and that's reflected by LaRusso being asked about movie deals. This idea of like politics, the theatrics of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like the mayor doing this, and then LaRusso, and the lawyers are just like, "You're doing this, we fucking own you," which is weird. Because the lawyer is basically like, he did it like pro bono, didn't he? He was like, and now he's just like, pay up, and it's like, that is, I think by definition, not how this works.
Right.
So he starts extorting LaRusso.
Yeah. He wants him to do like, they want to make a movie about him, and they want to do like, have him do speaking tours. And LaRusso is, honestly, like I like his storyline, especially him with Potts, his partner. That's the other one that I would have really liked to see what else happened with.
Yeah, it's really complex.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's weird to say, but I think if this was a 6-season arc, they would have given him a redemption.
Probably. I think they were thinking about at least an element of part of one, which is something I wanted to mention here. But I was just going to point out that LaRusso, in a lot of ways, like this character, the idea of him is like, it's kind of like a prototype Vic Mackey or Walter White, right? Or more Vic Mackey, because they're trying to put him in situations where it's like
They do this,
where you have a main character who's just completely abominable and unforgivable.
They're trying to talk about the blurred lines, right? Because that's what happens with the rapist.
Yeah.
With the chief being like, sometimes you got to bend the rules. Bad cops break them.
Yeah.
He says too. There's also a cop they have who's like future LaRusso in this.
Right.
Where you're like, oh, he's starting to break the rules and shit.
It's Vicky's new partner, right? The guy that didn't want a woman partner. Yeah, he's a scumbag.
Yeah. Yeah, they're making him new LaRusso, where it's like the ends justify the means, where he's because they do this thing where they're like, a rapist. Nobody likes this guy, obviously.
Yeah, so anything is fair game.
Yeah.
There was what I wanted to say about that scene with LaRusso and the lawyers is like with this idea of him kind of being like a prototype Vic Mackey, where he's this character that you can't forgive, but they try to give him some moral complexity. Like when he was on the talk show and he was like, well, I'm not like racist.
I'm not racist.
Even though he really is, he just doesn't think he is. And in this scene where they're like telling him he has like a weird level of integrity in this scene where they're like, you're going to do the movie and you're going to do speaking tours and stuff. He's like, no, I don't want to do any of that. I want to go back to work. Like, that's all I want to do. Like,
that's been his whole thing.
And she even,
I just want to be a cop.
And to the point where like the lawyer ghoul who is like really into him, she's like,
yeah, we never get closure on her.
Yeah, we sure don't. Obviously, I'm sure these two characters, her and her boss, were going to continue to be a presence in the series had it gone on.
For sure, yeah.
She's like, well, don't you want to be rich? And he even kind of says no to that. So it's like they give you this scene where there's like a weird level of integrity for LaRusso.
Well, yeah, I enjoy that in that
because he thinks he's a salt of the earth guy, like he's the blue collar guy looking out for, the good people. Except
It's a really good villain, LaRusso.
Yeah.
He's actually a really fucking good TV villain.
Yeah.
Like, if there were lists of best TV villains, he could kind of be on it, because the idea about him is that they make him so human that they're exploring what makes a person do bad things. Obviously, no one is twirling their mustache and planning to be bad, so they're showing how a person like this is bad,
right?
Where it's like he feels like, oh, I deserve my job back, even though he shouldn't fucking be there.
No, absolutely not. And it's so
yeah. And then he's like, I have integrity, and I just want to be a cop, and I'm just cleaning up the streets. And like they do a very, very good job with showing the complexity of this character, who is ultimately a terrible cop and doing evil things.
He's a terrible cop. He's a bad man too. Like we see all that shit he does with his girlfriend. It's just like and like to your point, I think Vic Mackey would be on a list of the best TV villains.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, anyway, like, so what's the next?
So yeah, they're reinstating him, which feels nuts, but it's true. And then they're like, Potts, you can transfer if you want. Potts is the partner
who had to testify against him.
And it's one of those moments where you're like, fuck, this is unreal, and then you realize like, no, this is extremely realistic.
This happens all the time. They do. It's the same thing they do with the freaking priests that molest kids. They just move them to a different church.
They move them around. Yeah. That's the only reason this isn't realistic, because they bring LaRusso back in the same department. They would normally move him, like you're saying, right?
You would think, that's any one of these guys that ends up, or not necessarily guys, but any one of these cops that ends up getting in trouble for hurting or killing somebody, and they look at their record, it's always like invariably a history of complaints, and they've been moved from a few departments. It's like, yeah.
And so that's happening, and then we get new cop who's trashing the rapist house, doing the shitty. I honestly thought this was going to end with him shooting the rapist,
like LaRusso,
like LaRusso did,
because
I thought that was the idea, and it's interesting to explore like what are they actually saying, because it feels like they're trying to like say like sometimes you got to get your hands dirty, like you don't want this rapist to go free, do you? But then they show. I was scared they were gonna like start like making a case for that, but then they do the chief sort of being like, no, you bend the rules a little, but like you can't be a monster. You can't execute this man. And you need, it still needs to be within the law.
And I do
is what they ultimately land on.
Yeah, and I do think even that part of it, obviously there is an element of this being a TV show and of the mentality behind cops and crimes at the time.
And the 90s, yeah.
And the 90s, through the 80s leading up to the 90s especially, where it was like just crime's out of control. We're worrying too much about trampling on criminals' rights. We got to let cops do whatever. So there is a little bit of an element of that, but just because like Stephen Bochco and the people behind the show have made other like NYPD Blue and Hill Street Blues, very, very nuanced shows about crime and cops, where it's like I have to feel that part of that is also a commentary on how the system is kind of hypocritical and weird and broken, where it's like, well this cop, it's like, because Stillman tries to say, well, me busting into this house when we didn't have a warrant for it and finding the evidence that this guy is the rapist isn't okay, but you like arresting him on some false charge and letting him go, but just so happening to lead him through, well, he will get spotted by one of the victims and identified. That's okay. So and there's where the chief says, "Well, yes."
The chief is just like, "Yes,
yeah." Sometimes, he says sometimes good cops bend the rules. Sometimes bad cops break them. And
you're a bad cop. He says,
he does. He says that you're a bad cop.
Go lie down. Yeah. Go lie down.
Go in the corner. Bad. So it is like where you're like, well, yeah, obviously you do what you said, where it's like, well, you do have to kind of get your hands a little bit dirty to get some of this work done, I suppose. Or you
have to think creatively.
You work within within the system. Yeah, you work within the system to get what you. So it's not really getting your hands dirty. It's just like, well, it is, but
it reminds me of The Wire. The Wire does a lot of this, where they bend the rules a lot, and then sometimes they do downright shitty things that you're like, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
and this they do. This is almost like a PSA for cops, because they also point out they know they can't. The beauty of using this character, this villain who we all hate, is that they need to make a very logical case where they're like, on top of everything else, he'll also get away if you do it this way. Like, everybody's saying that to the new cop who trashes the house and does the illegal search. They're like, you basically did the one thing wrong where we can't catch him.
Right.
Like, you made it impossible to catch him. Where, like, that's a big part of it, right? Is just like, You're not solving anything this way. You're causing more problems, and you're not finding justice. If anything, you're just making the situation way worse.
So it's a miscarriage of justice in both senses. First, in the immediate sense of where you're violating person's constitutional rights and you're breaking the law. Cops can't just do whatever they want to. This is not how it's supposed to work. But then, of course, the other end of it is, because you did that, now all this evidence you got against this person who is a very real and dangerous violent criminal is going to go free now because you fucked it up. But yeah, I just wanted to, I think that anytime something that has the level of nuance that Cop Rock weirdly does in a lot of its storylines, any story that's about working within the system to kind of get things done in a little bit of a bent or backhanded way, I have to believe is sort of a comment on, well, we wouldn't have to do kind of shady things within the system if the system wasn't broken.
Right, yeah. Again, The Wire. The Wire is the other show that fucking deals with this. The Wire is very much about the system being broken from top to bottom, right?
Yeah, yes.
And how, like, the idea The Wire, the thing The Wire tries to pitch, and mostly does, is nobody is evil. They're just all part of this broken system for the most part. Like, they show greedy people, they show people doing terrible shit, but they always try to show the complexities of that, which is very much what Cop Rock is doing. Which is so weird about Cop Rock,
because it was weird to like root for them like bracing the rapist so that they could arrest him. Like they basically they pull him over for some bullshit thing, like you have the wrong treads on your tires, and then they goad him into kind of pushing one of them, and they're like, oh, you assaulted us. And they do that fucking shit all the time to just beat up or murder people they don't like. So it was weird for them to present it in this situation where like, sometimes
it's good. Sometimes it's good that cops do this. Yeah, that's what it is, where it's like the 90s of it all. But again, it's so hard to, because The Wire, they have parts in The Wire where McNulty and other cops you're supposed to like literally just beat up a suspect in custody.
Oh yeah.
Like, and then you realize like, oh, do I like these people? And then you realize that what it comes down to is TV shows doesn't have to be about characters you like and characters you hate.
Right.
And there's nothing in between. It's about it can be a hazy spectrum.
People who are, people have frailties and failings and
McNulty is a fucking scumbag.
Decisions. McNulty's a mess. Like he's a disaster.
He's a real
of a man.
LaRusso.
But he's not a LaRusso.
He's not a LaRusso, but you know what I mean.
Right.
He's a fucking mess.
He's a disaster.
And again, we're not supposed to necessarily be like, we love McNulty. It's not quite that. And that's kind of the same here, which is like, there's a spectrum, and LaRusso is definitely someone we're not supposed to love or even like.
You're supposed to.
We're not.
LaRusso's a villain. Like, I think.
Yeah. But what makes him even worse is that every now and then he'll say something that you're like, yeah, he's got a point there. Like that's what makes him like the weird integrity he has towards like selling out is like that's what makes him almost more dangerous.
Right.
Is that he's cautious and he says the right stuff when he has to, and he does have principles, and that makes him even scarier.
And there's go finish that thought. I'm sorry.
Oh, just because like, you look at someone like Trump, it's like, oh, thank God Trump is bad at this. Right? Like, and so like with LaRusso, it's like he's good at it. And that's what makes him worse.
And he doesn't realize he's the villain. Like he thinks he's like, well, anyway.
Right. Which again, no villains do. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, some of them do.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So we get the Clean It Up song, the campaign ad, which is very long for an ad. But that's the one where I was like, is this supposed to be really happening? I can't tell. Like, is her ad a song? But then they're like, we got enough footage for like this many types of ads.
I had the same question too because it's unclear. Like they just cuts them watching the ad and it's this big musical number, and then it pulls back to show them all like her and her aides and her PR guys are all gathered in the room watching it. So it is sort of unclear at first, like what is. Because of the way the rules of musicals, it's like, okay, so what's that really a song and dance, or is it just like a song and dance, like the musical song and dance? Like we're supposed to infer it was a regular commercial. It would have been amazing if
they were just like, did you do a musical? Jesus, yeah. But they treat it like it isn't. We get ties that bind LaRusso coming back, and this is the song that I wanted to talk about because it's very interesting.
Yeah,
because they treat it like a moment of triumph. The song is really triumphant. And like everybody is like, we did it. The brotherhood is back together. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, why is this tone deaf? But then they show like Potts and the Chief watching that all happen, and like they meet lock eyes with LaRusso and stuff, and you realize like, okay, they're not happy, and so it's cool to show like. This is a triumphant moment for these cops that's not good.
And it's driving home the situation Potts is in, where it's like he risked his whole career. He's had crosses burned on his lawn. All the other cops hate him. Like, you can transfer to another department if you don't want to be around LaRusso. And he's like, where else can I go? He's like, at least here I have the protection of the captain because he's on my side. But like, I can't go anywhere else where I can go on with my career. And like, well, you can make detective. He's like, you're just trying to throw me a bone. So it's like, it's showing like what an impossible situation this is. Like his career is totally screwed. And at one point of the song, like LaRusso is singing like you can't like no cop like he basically says I was really questioning myself for a while there, but no cop stands alone. And as he sings that line, it's actually the camera is centered right on Potts, who is standing entirely alone with nobody behind him. Like
they're specifically like showing.
Yeah, so it's very intentionally done to be like this is a moment of triumph that is like not like it's bad, like and it's
exactly.
just really just that huge that thin blue line shit over it's like every covering up for each other, like one hand washes the other, and it's like Potts is totally screwed for trying to do the right thing.
It's very well done. Like that. This is, I think, like the scene where it's. I feel like they tried to do that. This was what they're trying to do more, and I don't think they.
This is when
this is like the best version of.
Yeah, agreed. This is in my opinion an example of it working as well as it possibly can.
Yeah. And leads into the rapist stuff. The chief saying like, you got to bend the rules, telling this guy he's a bad cop.
And then what made me think the same about a possible quasi sort of redemption arc, or like a redemption arc in his own mind at least, for LaRusso, is after that exchange where the captain says that to Stillman, and it really lingers on LaRusso, and you can see that he
feels guilty.
He's bothered by this.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't. He realizes he doesn't really deserve this. Welcome,
it's
right?
He realizes it's not a triumph.
Yeah, and so then that's when he takes fucking Potts aside, and he's like, "Hey, you want to be my partner again?" Yeah. And Potts is like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
It's not only that. He's like, "You want to be my partner again? I forgive you."
Yeah,
and it's like, you forgive me.
Yeah, and this is again LaRusso is perfect, where it's like he knows something's fucked up.
He knows
but
he
doesn't understand
wrong.
Why.
Right, he's such a narcissist. He can't conceive of it in any other context.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah,
and then Potts nails LaRusso, punches his ass, and then it's just like, all right, fuck you. And then what happens, Tom?
And then it cuts to Ronnie Cox. And I'm blanking on his name. Oz.
Oz, yeah.
I'm blanking on the actor's name.
Oh, Vondi Curtis Hall.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's because it's not their characters. It's specifically Vondi Curtis Hall and Ronnie Cox sitting in the chief's office talking about the show.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens? So this is him punching LaRusso, them catching a single rapist, and the marriage being in turmoil is how the story ends.
Yes.
That's just for the record. That's how Cop Rock ends. The story of Cop Rock ends with the station or the department in absolutely fucking turmoil. And you really what's going to happen.
There's one more.
They end on a little bit of a moral there, which is like bad cops break the rules. Good cops might have to bend them within the system.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say there was one more thread, and that's the thread between Rose and Gaines. That is, Rose is his name, right? I think so. The guy whose partner gets killed in the beginning. Anyway,
right.
So there's a scene where they're sitting in the car, and Gaines is like, "So I have to apologize to LaRusso now?" And Rose is like, well, "No, but I mean, like, I'm not gonna give him shit." He's like, "I don't listen. He shot the guy that killed my partner. I'm glad he beat the rap. I'm glad he's back." So it seems like they were planning another possible storyline seed there of where because they started out like Rose doesn't like him, and Gaines works really hard to win him over, and then they've been like an effective duo, and they've kind of had like a good friendship. But now there's this other potential seed of dispute between them.
Yes. Yeah, that seemed interesting.
Because the whole thing with Gaines is that he's this idealistic young cop, right? He's like, I can change I can change the system. I can do everything. I can be a Boy Scout straight arrow. And then, of course, there's Rose. He's like, well, I don't give a fuck about that guy. He shot my partner. I'm glad LaRusso killed him.
So, ends so really gritty. He
ends with just everything up in the air. Yeah.
Really gritty. And then we cut to Ronnie Cox. And I don't know about you. I thought this was a regular scene.
Just another scene.
And he walks in and he goes, "I can't believe they canceled us." And even after you said that, I was like, in what way? The police department? And then the other one says, "Yeah, I only got to sing one song." And I was like, are they really doing this? And then Ronnie Cox is like, "Well, I started in this business as a singer." And when he says, "This was a great job. I loved my character."
He said, "I loved this job." Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it kind of you can't at first you can't tell that they're not playing the characters, and they're just talking, and you're like, "Oh fuck no!" And then they just go they go out with a song where everybody joins in. The LaRusso, all the characters who are fighting each other to do the song "We'll Ride Again," to which I say, "No, you won't. You will not ride again."
Yeah, and they know they knew they wouldn't.
Yeah,
but it was and it's kind of like
the
a
set
funny
they pull
song.
out, and it's just on set, and they're all just fucking singing like Randy Newman should have been there, but he wasn't.
It feels like a Randy Newman lyrics, because at one point the actor who plays Ralph is singing. He's like, "Would you believe this show cost more than Heaven's Gate?" And Heaven's Gate, of course, is that famous flop made by the director of The Deer Hunter. Right. Is this before the other Heaven's Gate?
Oh, yes. Many years.
Yeah, because that's man.
Yeah.
That's
that was
a weird
like, what,
line.
97, 98? Anyway.
Yeah, and it's this big meta scene where they just say, fuck it.
They just say, fuck it.
Let's all sing,
We're
and
canceled.
we all enjoyed. Yeah, we had a great time. We were bummed we got canceled. And it's so perfect
in the whiplash again of how it ends with this gritty fucking situation. And then they're all just like buddies and they're singing. And it's like, what is this? I felt like I was dying. It was amazing. Perfect ending.
It was a really great ending. Yeah. Like, what else would you do? Like, they knew they couldn't end these stories in any kind of satisfying way. So they just kind of had to take a bow.
I didn't know if they had known they were canceled, like sometimes that happens, right?
Yeah.
So I was fully expecting this to end on a cliffhanger and like a shitty song and then like Cop Rock will return next year and then nothing, right? That's what I assumed. But I love that they were told they were canceled and so they whipped together a fucking song.
Hell yeah, that's like what you do, man.
Everything else felt like it was just the script they had, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then they were like, okay, let's cut 5 minutes from this so we can just do a song at the end. And that's what they do. Absolutely unreal. Cop Rock. Way to go out like a champion, though.
Yeah. They went out swinging for the fences, man. I respect this end scene a whole lot.
Me too. And imagine this is how you learned it was canceled. Yeah. Watching it on TV. Like, wait, what?
Like, I just watched that whole hour for nothing?
Yeah. I mean, I've had similar things. When I watched Deadwood, I remember being like, all right, let's pop in the next season. And they're like, oh, I have some bummer news for you.
Now you got a movie, though, Dave. Now you can...
Yeah, I know.
Now Deadwood's not as painful an experience.
It's almost as if there needs to be a Cop Rock movie.
There sure does. Although, as with Deadwood, a few of these actors are dead.
Yeah, they can figure it.
They'll figure it out.
Grand Moffat, fucking
Moff 'em up.
Fuck it.
Moff 'em up.
Oh, your shit. All right, we have a segment about best song, but I want to do a couple extra segments.
Sure.
Best song, I think we should do best song of the series if we can recall. And then I do think we should talk about like where do we think this would have went. We sort of already talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. And I've got a wild pitch that I've been floating the whole time that I'm going to prod you with a little bit more.
Let's bang out best song of this episode. It's hard not to give it to the last one.
It is really hard not to give it to the last song.
And I think I have to, right? We'll Ride Again. It's the We'll Take a Bow song. Yeah, it's not even their best song of the series, but it's like,
which is fine because there weren't that many great ones in this episode, honestly.
No, Ties That Bind was okay. I liked How Do You Say Goodbye because it was that cool mirror oneer.
Yeah, and it was that was one of the more emotional ones too.
Yeah, I Got Something For You was a okay song on its own, but the context is like, and Clean It Up was meh.
Yeah, Clean It Up was intentionally cheesy.
Oh, I do want to note one of the surfers in the Clean It Up looks like Buffalo Bill. That stood out for me. That's all.
Is she gonna clean up the city's drama for 1992? Is she a great big fat person? Anyway.
All right, best song in the series is going to be harder because
that is a challenge.
I'm going to list them for you because I have them all here. There are a lot.
Let me tell you my gut ones, okay, before you list them, because then I want to tell you the ones because these will be the ones that I remember, like from my brain.
Yeah.
I think Ralph's first song really stuck with me.
Since She Chose Me.
Yeah, that really stuck with me, I think. At least I remember that one.
Yeah, that I was going to say, of the first one, I think that's what we landed on.
I remember... Oh, man.
It's hard.
It's hard. There's a bunch.
I ache to hear the doggies sing again, performed by Ronnie Cox.
The insane Ronnie Cox riding his horse down fucking Wilshire Boulevard, I think.
Yeah, Baby Merchant, of course.
The Baby Merchant.
You Can't Keep a Good Man Down. That was the LaRusso song, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a tough one.
I know. Let's see. There's some ones that popped out that I'm looking for. Nowhere to Go. That was the homeless people. That's not.
That was an episode opener.
Burning Crosses was fucking. That was the cross burning one. That was a banger of a song. It was another one where it was like, what a weird. Let's Be Careful Out There is of course one of the ones people remember.
That's the memed one. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman? I remember that one. That was the ladies complaining.
Yeah.
Dream Little Boy was the chief singing.
Singing to his son. Great. It was fine. Yeah.
Heroes All. That was Quit Your Bitchin'. I want to go bumpty bumpty with you. That was the one.
That one was
with
nuts.
The lady
chasing Andy around the cruiser.
Yeah, I'm going through these very quick. Yeah, no, and let's see. Your number's up. Tenderness, To Live and Die. I feel like later ones don't stick out as much to me. I think Baby Merchant is the one that should be the meme.
Yeah.
But Let's Be Careful Out There is kind of a banger. Like, I get that song stuck in my head sometimes. So, like, I can't be against it.
I think it's got to be one of those three.
Which three?
Let's Be Careful Out There, the Baby Merchant, and the Ralph song. Maybe.
And the Ralph song?
Maybe not the Ralph song. Definitely Burning Crosses. Yeah, Burning Crosses.
I think that's the most well-performed song.
That's probably the best one, yeah.
The best song, but then is that what we really want? Like, in terms of, like, actual music, if these were just songs performed, Burning Crosses, I think, would be the winner.
Yes.
But
that would win the Oscar. But what would be track 1 on the CD?
Yeah, what would be the one that's, like, perfectly encapsulates cop rock? I think I think there's a reason Let's Be Careful Out There is the meme, because that is the perfect one that shows like everything about cop rock that's so fucking weird.
Yeah,
right?
all the weirdness of it contained within one song and within one scene. Yeah.
Baby Merchant, what it doesn't have going for it is that it's not a cop song. It's a fever dream song, but it's not like, it doesn't show what cop rock truly is, right?
That's fair. That's fair to say.
But then there's I Ache to Hear the Doggy Sing Again, which isn't a great song, but that song's just batshit in its own way, too.
It's just Ronnie Cox riding a horse.
Yeah, that might be my favorite song, but that doesn't mean it's the best song. Does that leave us with Let's Be Careful Out There?
I don't want to nominate that one though.
By the way, this is all assuming we can't nominate the theme song by Randy Newman,
right? Which legitimately is in my head almost constantly,
all the time, all the time. Yeah. It's tough. It's almost like you can't really pick the best one. I think Let's Be Careful Out There perfectly encapsulates the show.
Of course, that's why it's the meme. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's my favorite. I think Ralph's song is probably the best character one, right?
I think
it's the best story one.
Of the main characters, for sure.
Yeah. That's really the one that has the most, like, heart behind it.
And then, man, yeah. Baby Merchant should be the meme.
Yeah. Baby Merchant is out of its mind.
Okay, so we named 4. We named 4 good ones. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Don't make us pick.
Yeah. Real quick,
that'd be like canceling cop rock. Don't do that.
Exactly. The question that Matt Smith wanted us to ask: does this show know that cops suck? 100%,
1,000%.
Yeah. Having watched it, yes, no doubt in my mind.
Of course it is.
So that leaves us to the question: where would this go? I think we identified that LaRusso would never become a hero.
No.
But I think they were showing him a dark redemption arc. They were going to give him over 6 seasons. And other, crazier things have happened on TV, right? They've done this before.
I think...
so I could easily see that happen.
I'm not sure what would have happened with... I thought that Potts might end up taking a higher position, but I don't know.
Yeah. I could see Potts, like, working to clean up things. Like, I could see Potts getting into politics. Like, I could see Potts and the mayor having a thing happen or something. Like, I can see Potts, like you're saying, going up high, or Potts, or we'd go the other way where it's just Potts' life is ruined, and that's that for him.
Maybe that's true, because it's hard to, in some seasons, some of the characters that are main characters in season 1 are not that way as the show goes on, like in The Wire, like Michael B. Jordan in The Wire.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they don't. Cop Rock doesn't feel like they're going to wrap things up in a clean little bow.
No.
So it's like, it could go either way. But I got to say, the fact that there's, very much like The Wire again, the fact that there's a fucking politician character leads me to think that, I just realized, who would become a politician in this? Ronnie Cox.
I was actually thinking Oz.
Oz would be great.
They're showing Oz have all this conflict with the role he's playing right now.
Well, that would be the sensible one. I could see Ronnie Cox being like the unhinged,
right,
like populist that everybody fucking loves who ends up running for mayor or something like that.
Because I think that's what would end up happening is either Oz would run for chief or he would run for the mayor's seat because she's about to win the Senate seat, and it would pit them against each other because their friendship gets tested throughout the season.
Yeah, and then there's the love situation with Ronnie Cox and the mayor. I could see also being strained somehow.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then
she's like putty in his hands for some reason.
And then she'd be called to make she has that relationship with her aide who's gay, and so that would because she's going to become a senator in the early 90s. That would possibly be a storyline they might pursue.
Yep. I can see the captain becoming a very dark character because one of the things they did throughout this season that we didn't talk about is they kept showing the captain's home life.
Yes.
And they're showing that he has something to lose. So I could see him being put in a tough spot and having to just keep his job. You know what I mean? Or he's not going to fight too hard is I think the point of the captain.
Well, I think that's the point of that final scene where he does the rule bending and he makes a big show of it in front of LaRusso. And he's like, well, when they tell him you have to take LaRusso back and you just do this, and Ronnie Cox do this and I'll consider it a personal favor for me, that a favor that can be redeemed at any time or something. He phrases it basically, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And so the captain agrees, and because he does say I might as well resign because if I take LaRusso back, it undermines my authority. So there was the lawful good, I guess, in terms of D&D alignment version of the captain.
Yeah.
But I think what would end up happening is he starts to descend to LaRusso's level because he hates him so much and he wants to make an example of him or drive him out.
Yeah.
I do think you're right is where it would start to show the captain start to pick up some dirt for what he views as good reasons at first. He's like, well, sometimes you have to bend the rules rather than break them. And then, of course, he would just keep bending them to protect, like you said, he's got stuff to lose. So he couldn't resign. He had to do what Ronnie Cox said and take this guy back.
Yeah.
So, I think that's probably right.
Yeah, I can see LaRusso being, like we said, redemption arc. And I think part of that, we talked about the lawyer who's a weirdo. I could see it's what LaRusso could be. He's kind of an Al Swearingen, where Al Swearingen is also not a hero by any.
Oh, I
means.
think
he's a villain. But you bring in a Hearst, suddenly you're like, well, Al can help out, right?
Yeah.
I can see a situation where you bring in a bigger evil, like corporations, like the lawyers or money, and you could start creating scenes where LaRusso is a terrible force used for a good cause, right?
I could see that, and I think what I would do, I think, or where I think that they might have been planting these seeds is that the lawyers, because they're not getting this money that they assumed they were going to get, they assumed LaRusso was just going to play ball all the way through, they're going to come after him hard and make his life difficult, probably expose shitty things he's done, use all of their considerable power to drill
they're going to blackmail the shit out of him.
So I figure what would end up being his redemption is he would out them, right? He's like, well, they know I murdered this guy. They knew I murdered this guy. I told them I murdered this guy. And here's everything they told me to say. They told me it's fine to have the racists and the Klan members on your side because that is good for you. Just spill the beans on them totally, end up getting sent to prison and losing his job as a cop. But at least I got these fuckers off my back. And this is how I can finally be, I did the right thing for once.
Yeah, I can see that for sure, where LaRusso is put into a corner where by being guilty, he, like you're saying, he has a lot of baggage, a lot of people leaning on him, and so he has to be free of it, because that is something he would hate more than anything. Right. That's what they're showing.
Yes.
LaRusso hates being told what to do. He hates being controlled. And so, that would be the ultimate thing that would finally get him. And he would do it without being I'm good now.
No, he'd do it just to spite them. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you all.
Yeah, fuck you, I'll go to jail.
I can absolutely see that.
I can outlast jail. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he might not even do it as a way, well, now I can do the right thing. It would just be vindictive and spiteful.
Yeah. Vicky, Ralph. I can see Vicky and Andy having a thing, and Andy getting, like you're saying, becoming a very dark character as well.
Yeah.
And I think they know that. Going back to the 90s of it all.
It's hard to tell.
it's hard to tell because the other thing that scared me is that they just want them to get together and to be good. And then Ralph becomes the scary character, which he already is. I don't think, I hope what I would want, not, it's hard to predict what they were going to do, is Vicky and Ralph never to get back together. And what we really need is Vicky to start gaining some self-esteem herself. Like, I would love to see her climb the ranks because they've been doing that thing where it's like a woman cop isn't taken seriously.
Right.
And so I could see her, I could see them like having her become like sneaky chief or something like that. Like where like, other TV shows have done this. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to spoil them. Where a character that you have kind of written off suddenly gains power and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even think they would be in this position. Like I could see them doing that for Vicky too. If like her just slowly kind of working on herself and on her profession, casting aside these guys and not like becoming not just the love triangle person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I want for her at least.
Yeah. And she does have a bit of a relationship with the captain where he's sort of a supportive mentor, but only to an extent. So especially if they did the arc, if they did the arc where the captain sort of starts to get a little bit dirty, that could play well between them as to her rising up to be like a captain or something as well.
Yeah. I assume the fun of this show would be everybody gets promoted around, like, like everything starts happening. Someone runs for mayor. Like they're showing this hierarchy. So a very compelling thing to do, of course, is to show everybody move up the hierarchy and wonder, well, who's it gonna be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they could have a lot of fun with that question throughout. And of course, it's like, are the right people going to move up or the wrong people?
Yeah.
Are the people going to be rewarded in this system? We talked about that movie, The Pentagon Wars, is kind of about that, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like people doing the wrong thing being promoted for doing the wrong thing. That's something they could explore here, right? And it could be really dark, or it could be really optimistic, or it could be a little of both. And I think that would be interesting.
I think it would probably be both.
Yeah, I think they'd go both.
Because it's funny to say, but like the shows that this creative, like Botchko and the people he worked, like his other shows tend to be mostly realistic and grounded, and Cop Rock is kind of mostly, apart from the musical part.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like in order to be like honest about that as a grounded show, you do have to kind of have both. Or it's like,
for sure.
Yeah.
Man, is he listening? Can he get us to write a new season? Can he get us to write a movie?
Do you like what we're saying? Can we?
Yeah.
Let's do this, Dave. Let's make. The wild pitch I wanted to say is I think we should just do a season 2 of this and just talk about episodes we make up.
Yeah, and just write Cop Rock.
We'll just write 2. Cop Rock.
Yeah, I'm really like, there's a hole.
There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways this could have gone, man.
It's really weird that Cop Rock 1 got canceled and I watched the final episode, and I feel not too dissimilar than when I finished Deadwood or like Arrested Development when it was first on, where I'm like, man, too soon. Give me more. I want to know what's going to happen to these characters.
Yeah.
I want to watch more Cop Rock. I don't even need to do it for a podcast.
I just want it for my life.
Yeah.
For my own human experience. I need it.
I like Cop Rock.
I do, Dave. I'm a Cop Rock fan.
Yeah, I'm a Cop Rock fan. We're saying it. We're standing on our desks. We're proud Cop Rock fans. Do we have anything else to say about this series?
I don't think so. Other than
no.
What a surprise. Never would have anticipated this is where we would have ended up.
Yeah. It is on DVD. It's also on YouTube. Mm-hmm. There are ways to watch this. You should all watch Cop Rock.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If enough people buy the DVD, that would be funny. They're like looking at me like, what the fuck? Cop Rock? I guess we got to bring this back.
Yeah, I guess let's revive Cop Rock. Yeah. Huh. Give us a movie, you cowards. Give us a Cop Rock movie. Or you know what? Remake Cop Rock.
It's right there. It's right there.
Yeah.
I think we can be done, so many Dave. Things. We can close the book on cops rocking.
Yeah. Cops rock. The cops rock. No, they don't. All right. Well, thank you, Matt Smith. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been a journey. This has been some I'll never forget. It's a life's journey.
It's going to stick with me for the rest of my life, for sure.
Yeah. Matt Smith did this through our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. You go on there, you pay $5 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. We also watch movies every Friday night. We could watch Cop Rock.
We could.
And there's all sorts of tiers on there. There's a Discord. It's a nice community. Check it out.
It's a great community. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where we have a link to our Teespring store where you can get all kinds of cool original artwork and designs on T-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your little rockin' peepers onto that.
Yeah. Rock it. Rock your peeps.
Rock it. You know? Rock your peeps. Yeah.
And if you see Randy Newman, I don't know what to do in that situation, to be honest.
Freeze.
I think
play dead. Play dead.
Yeah, he's definitely more scared of you than you are of him.
That's right. Try to make yourself appear larger.
Yes.
That will usually frighten Randy Newman away. Mm-hmm. I've got to be putting you back in the car.
All right.
Bye. Bye.